everybody, this is Custom Cez for Roma Custom Bike, and in this episode we will paint the gas tank using different techniques, including powder coating with different textures and the old school technique of silver leafing. So in this episode we'll prep up the gas tank, but first I want to show you the oil bag that we prepped up with the candy red. We're probably going to do some CNC in copper that will stick to it, but for now I want to show you the gas tank that I got sandblasted, and I've done some studies with some painter's tape to see what type of design I'm going to do on it. But as you can see, where it was touched, it developed a bunch of rust and the surface is incredibly rough after sandblasting. So we're gonna prep it up and get it all ready to be painted. I start by removing the painter's tape used for the design draft, and I'll save it so I can use it later for some reference points while redrawing it on the final masking. To keep it together while removing it, I use an X-Acto knife. First thing I want to do is sand down the surface that has been left very rough from the sandblasting process. The objective is not so much to remove the rust, but to make the surface nice and smooth. For flat surfaces, I can use the orbital settler. For curvier areas, I work by hand to make sure I don't damage the corners. You still gotta work your ass off though, but either you do it good or don't do it at all. Now I need to tackle the rust. I've seen a video where they used muriatic acid to remove it, so I figured I would test it out on this tank to see if it works and if it has any collateral effects. So let's cross our fingers. The acid needs to be applied with a brush all over the surface that needs to be cleaned. I have to say that it works great, but be very careful because it's highly corrosive. Use all necessary precautions like gloves, breathing filter, glasses and so on. Remember that potentially everything the acid touches could be damaged. So use a surface you don't care for and wash everything very well, including the floor, because the acid could easily eat out the grout. Also, the acid on the tank needs to be neutralized with water, so I rinse it off both outside and inside, making sure all the acid is gone. But water is also the main reason for the creation of rust, so I dry off the piece right away using compressed air. Now I want to give you a great news. In the last episode we have used some polishing tools from blocks/metal.com. Well, the owner of the company saw the videos and he was so happy with the job that we did that he decided to support our show and become a sponsor. So he sent us a bunch of his product that we can now put to the test and give it a fair and square review. You can find their product by going to www.blocks/metal.com and check them out for yourself. Everything happened so quick that we haven't had time to shoot a demonstration right now. But in this case, we could have used a product called Power Tank. It's a product that has been developed to protect the inside of your gas tank. It's a very simple product. First, you use the liquid to remove the rust. Way safer than the muriatic acid that I just used. And the second product seals the tank with an oil and fuel resistant film. In September, we'll be butchering a Sportster tank so that it can be installed properly on Polski Ranger Deuce. What better opportunity to test this product? So you better subscribe to our channel to make sure you won't miss this important episode of Roma Custom Bike, where we'll put
the power tank by Lux Metal to the test. And now let's get back to our work. Once the tanks were all dry, I prepared them for powder coating. For details on this process, you can actually go and watch the video down below, where everything is explained in detail. So I started with a base coat. In this case, is mirror black. It could have been really any color because all I need for is a base coat for the silver leafing. For those of you that don't know powder coating, it's a process of applying paint in a powder form by electromagnetically attaching it to the piece that needs to be painted. As you can see, even if this is a glossy paint, it goes on as opaque powder. The part now needs to be put into an oven that can reach 204 degrees Celsius or 400 Fahrenheit until the powder becomes liquid and then solid. As you can see, during flow out, which is the term used to indicate the transition from powder to liquid, the paint becomes progressively more glossy. I suggest you use a laser thermometer to check the temperature and make sure that the piece, and not the oven, reaches the temperature marked on the powder container. In this case, 204 degrees Celsius. After about 20 minutes of curing, the chemical process of solidification is complete, and the piece can be pulled out of the oven and hung to cool off. Now let me take a moment to remind you to subscribe to this channel, if you haven't already done it. If you like the episode that you're watching, press the like button and share on your social networks, because that's how I finance the show. But now, let's get back to work.
Alright, the first step is done. The mirror black went on fantastically. It looks great. Now we can mask the design and proceed with the second layer of powder coating, the texturized black. So let's go and do that. So last night finished up the second half of the tank. We painted it with the first layer of color. Now we're here with the high temperature tape to cover up, draw the design, mask the areas that have to stay the way they are, and apply the second layer of paint.
To start the process, we cover the surface that needs to be masked with some high temperature tape, since the part needs to go in the oven at 200 degrees. I tried to follow the lines of the tank so that it wouldn't wrinkle. With a template made out of painter's tape that I previously made, I verified that I've covered enough space to redo the design.
So this is the high temperature tape, the blue one underneath, which will be able to go in the oven. But it's very hard to see when you're drawing on it. So I'm putting painter's tape to sketch the design. In the end, the painter's tape will be removed and we'll leave only the shape with the blue masking tape, high temperature. Oh, by the way, this is uncharted territory for me. I've never done this before, and I've decided to test it out on my own shit. Let's hope it comes out. Alright, as a ruler for these lines, since the actual ruler won't bend enough, I've decided to use some of this material, which is usually used to finish Formica boards. It's very flexible, yet gives you a very hard straight edge. So we just clip a piece, and here we go. We have our ruler for our project.
Once everything is being covered with the painter's tape, I can proceed with transferring enough point to redo the design on the tank. I try to be as precise as possible, also because the two halves of the tanks have to be symmetrical, and I want to do a real nice job. I came up with a nice trick to reproduce the straight lines, but to use it, the tanks have to be positioned perfectly horizontal. So with the help of my square and using a bunch of random objects, I managed to level the tank. Using a series of boards of 1 and 2 cm thick, one over the other, I try to reach the reference point and connect them together, sliding the pencil over the boards. After a bunch of measurements and some math, I mark a bunch of points on my soft ruler and I transfer them onto the tank. After that is done, is a simple game of connecting the dots. Using the boards one over the other, I make sure that the lines are horizontal, because since the surface is curved, simple measurements wouldn't be accurate. Once I'm done with all the lines, all is left to do is trace the silhouette of my logo onto the center of the tank, and then a 5 mm offset all around it.
Now comes the toughest moment, when with an X-Acto knife I have to remove all the tape from the areas I want to coat with the new paint, leaving only the ones that have to be masked. Obviously without scraping the paint underneath, so let's hope for the best and get it on.
It's a very delicate process for which I try to be as delicate as possible.
Every child is meant to do great things in life. You'll see one day. Don't do drugs, don't just love, don't do anything that makes you happy. It will pay up one day. You will get your share one day. You might get your share. You'll be a good boy, fitting with the crowd, make your mama proud of you. You'll be a good boy. Don't you fuck too much. Don't get high too much today. Now that would sound really good if you didn't just forget to mention life is not a game. There's no truth, there's no rules.
So we're done with the design, everything came out nice, and now we have to remove the painter's tape and leave only the high temperature tape so we can spray it in the booth and put it in the oven for the second coat.
But this we'll see in the next episode. In the meantime, I invite you to leave a comment, press the like button, and if you really like the show, why not? Tell your friends. I would like to thank logs/metal.com for the support, and please visit their website to discover all the great products for the restoration of your bike and car. So this is it. I'm Custom Cez, and I'll see you in the next episode of Roma Custom Bike.